Hey there, film fans. My name is Jeff.
My name is Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid us being lazy, negative, wannabe critics, we are making this a drinking game.
Yes,
people.
we are.
Anytime you... Dave bought a handle of bourbon. I thought this was a beer drinking podcast for this week's episode here. Anytime you hear this sound, we're drinking, people. That means we're drinking.
Yeah.
I hope you're drinking with us as well. Cool.
Pour yourselves a glass and give it up for a film we love and a film we're going to talk about.
Oh my gosh.
Let's kick it out. Get that bourbon out, motherfucker.
That's right. I'm gonna hype it up earlier this week. So this is the 11th week of our It Was the Best of Film, It Was the Worst of Film series. The 11th week where we take an Oscar-nominated film and a Razzie-nominated film and put them up against each other. Oscar film is The United States versus Billie Holiday. Music is our Razzie film. That's what's coming our way, people. But first, we have to shout our people out. John, can we do some shout-outs?
We can do some shout-outs. His name is Carlos Barroza, the legendary brewmaster. He has a handle on Instagram. It's CBarroza Bar 2019. Go ahead and give it a follow. That's CBARROZOBAR 2019. And if you're digging the music on this episode and every single motherfucking episode, head on over to soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist. That's Dasein, DASEIN. And if you would not mind, please like us, love us, follow us, subscribe, all the things at The Love of Cinema Pod, except for Twitter. Don't ask us why. It's just at The Love of Cinema. Jeff, God,
don't ask us why, people.
I think
just
Twitter
leave us
has a
alone,
character restriction
right?
on their names too, don't they?
Just a reminder, if you reach out to us on the socials, we do respond. We do respond. All right. So go ahead and feel free to like and subscribe and stay in touch. We would love to hear from you. So yes, we are going to be discussing The United States Billie Holiday, which is a movie about how fuck J. Edgar Hoover and the entire FBI during the civil rights movement, specifically Billie Holiday.
We laugh, but it's fucking true.
And Billie Holiday, man, she's just so fucking incredible. So United States vs. Billie Holiday is going to be our Oscar-nominated film, nominated for Andra. Andra is nominated. So there you go. And then Andra Day, which guess what? That day was inspired by Billie Holiday. She chose that name. So what are the odds that she'd be doing this role? Yeah, Lady Day, Billie Holiday. And then Music, which is the movie about how the Golden Globe voters are not on Twitter. We'll talk all about Music. For those of you who have not seen or heard of Music, it has really bad reviews.
Music is pretty much what happens when the Hollywood foreign press runs out of other white people to nominate.
Jesus Christ. We're not even talking about it yet, you guys.
It crossed some insensitive barriers by casting a non-person of needs to play a person of needs role. If you want to know more about it and our take on it, stick around until the end of the episode, please. We'll tell you more about it. I'm going to assume you listening have not seen the film, so don't think you should just tune it off. I think it's going to be catered towards
this is when
don't
you should
see the
sit
movie.
Through. You should sit through this.
So listen to a little bit more if you've been hearing about why people are complaining about it. We'll try to tell you a little bit about it so that you don't have to watch it. All right, but first, before we get into the United States versus Billie Holiday, let's keep the people informed with what we've been up to. Dave, what have you been watching?
What have I been watching? Well, unless you've been living under a rock and you skipped our little sneaky midweek broadcast, I've been watching the 4-hour Justice League extravaganza, the Snyder Cut. Sat through it the day it came out. I did like an 8-hour shift at work and then just literally walked out and went, okay, Snyder Cut's on. And my wife's like, cool, I'm going to the bedroom to read a book because she's done with superheroes by this point. And yeah, so
she didn't have another 4 hours in her.
And
she didn't have all of WandaVision in her.
I made her come out, watch a couple of bits, but yeah, other than that, I pretty much left her alone. I sat there and enjoyed it. Also, I watched, just for fun, I was doing a little bit of late night work and I threw on Willow, which anyone who hasn't seen Willow, it's if Ron Howard did Lord of the Rings, basically.
Yeah.
But it's a classic film, and there's going to be a TV series coming soon.
I love Willow, dude.
Yeah.
I fucking loved Willow, especially when I was a kid. I was obsessed with that. Ron Howard has a hilarious story about when he walked past what could only be described as the little people, the extras, having an orgy. It's a hilarious story. They were like taking a break and they were all just fucking each other. And he was just like, oh my goodness.
Jesus.
I recommend getting on YouTube and looking up Ron Howard Willow interview.
Yeah,
you will have a good laugh.
Do not get on there and type anything involving that an orgy. We don't endorse that at all.
We don't endorse that.
Have some
We'll
motherfucking fun.
go down a different fucking rabbit hole.
John,
I watched the only thing. I was out of town for some of this week, so the only movie I got to see was inspired by the Deacons podcast. They were interviewing Benoit Delhomme, who did the Theory of Everything, a cinematographer who did the Theory of Everything and Lawless, a few of this John Hillcoat's movies.
Cool.
So I had never seen The Proposition, which I'm obsessed with Guy Pearce, and I feel like that guy just doesn't make enough movies. John Hillcoat did The Road, Lawless, and The Proposition, Australian film set in Australia. It was really cool. I enjoyed it. It's on Amazon Prime. Definitely
LA Confidential, right? He was in
Guy Pearce.
Yeah. That's one of his best films.
And Priscilla, dude, Queen of the Desert. That's
That's one of his best films. But yeah.
guys, Memento, get out of here. You're crazy.
Memento, yeah, of course, fuck yeah.
He also did that Time Machine reboot that everybody forgot about, but I saw it on a plane. Not so bad.
Mildred Pierce, the Kate Winslet, Mildred Pierce. Anyway, Jeff, do it. What do you want?
All right, enough with the Guy Pearce stuff. All right.
How much RuPaul did you consume this week?
It was the finale of RuPaul UK, and this was basically just a victory lap. Nothing was decided. They chose a winner, but it didn't really matter.
So it was
they chose who they wanted.
It was the Avengers Endgame of RuPaul.
Yes. That's exactly what they literally went, and you win, and everybody was like, "Sure." You know, like it didn't even like nobody won it in the last week. You know what I mean? It was a victory lap. Okay, so then they did not choose my favorite, by the way. They chose my second favorite. Doesn't matter. And then I did watch one film since we had an extra couple days this week, thanks to John's trip. I watched Coming to America.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good.
I haven't seen this.
Yeah, it's funny. It has the 15-minute problem where they give you all the information up front. So it's not funny for like 10 or 15 minutes while they give you the plot. And then once they get through that, then there's some really funny stuff. Morgan Freeman narrates a funeral for a person who isn't dead yet. It's like, like it's stuff like that. It's really funny. It's really, really, really good job. So cool, Teddy Murphy. And then I watched, that's probably it. That's it. I watched that. Excited for next week though.
I did real fast. I just wanted to throw this in there. I forgot. With my parents, I watched that documentary on HBO Max. Robin Williams, Come Inside My Mind. It's just his.
Oh, I've seen that.
Geez. Yeah.
Jesus Christ,
Dude.
So fun, so powerful. Miss you, Robin. Thank you for believing. All right, let's do it.
Oh my God, he's awesome. Okay, let's do it.
One thing before we get into this, I looked up this week because I was curious. About Razzie voting, because we had a little bit of a rant with Glenn Close, and I looked up how to vote in the Razzies, and I was very, very unsurprised to discover that you buy your vote in the Razzies. You make a donation and like buy a membership, and if you buy a membership, you're allowed to vote.
Oh man!
And I'm like, I didn't realize, like, is the Razzies just a money grab?
Probably like probably in some weird reverse publicity kind of way. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I'm thinking from now on we just do the good films.
Okay.
We're all about it.
Yeah.
We're all about it.
Although,
so
I'll change the poster.
What was our Razzie film? Was Hillbilly our Razzie film last week? It was, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Like, we may have missed that one.
That also,
anyway,
that also put a sour taste in my mouth. So this will be our last Razzie film, I think.
I'm rooting for Mike Lindell, and I'm actually rooting for Maria Bakalova, Oscar nominee, and Rudy Giuliani to win worst on-screen duo. I think that would be really funny. It's like what a prize for Maria Bakalova. She's nominated for an Oscar and wins a Razzie for her scene with Rudy Giuliani. I feel
like out of anyone, she'd appreciate that the most too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
She'd be like, I did my job perfectly.
She did her goddamn job, people. It was so fucking great. Okay, let's get into our stuff here, people. We're done with this is our 11th and final week of Razzie films. We had fun with it, but this movie crossed the line, and so did Hillbilly Elegy. So we're done. Okay, let's do it.
You thought you'd sneak it in, but no.
All right, let's get into our featured segment here. So the United States versus Billie Holiday. So United States versus Billie Holiday, by the way, is a little critically mixed. It's got 53%, but an 83% audience score. This is available for streaming right this very second on Hulu. And it is directed by Lee Daniels. And it's funny because somebody asked me, who's Lee Daniels? And I was like, he directed Lee Daniels, The Butler. And if you didn't know that, he directed Precious, and he's directed other films. He did not insert his name into this one. Starring Andra Day. This is her feature film debut, apparently. She's a musician, an artist based on the West Coast.
It's certainly a feature film lead debut, yeah. She has 30 singer credits, and this is like what a debut to come out with.
Yeah, she's apparently Stevie Wonder loved her, Stevie Wonder's wife, and that's how she was sort of discovered about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Trevante Rhodes, who you may know from the third act of Moonlight. Garrett Hedlund has decided he's not young anymore, and he's done with that, and he's ready to play some older roles. And then Natasha Lyonne, who has been blowing up since her show on Netflix last year. So there you go. So that's really, really, really funny. Yeah. So that's the featured cast, and then the movie is about Billie Holiday. I'm going to be upfront in my segment here of this is not the first. In fact, I don't even think it's only one of two films where they don't know what to do with the biopic format, because there's Billie Holiday biopics out there. So it's the United States federal government, the FBI, was after Billie Holiday because they knew she abused drugs, but really they didn't like the fact that Strange Fruit, her very, very famous and iconic song, was about lynchings in the South. The song was first recorded in the 30s, I believe 1937, 1939, somewhere in that time period, 1939. And then throughout the 40s, and then again in the 50s and 60s, it was a rallying cry throughout the country that lynchings were going on. And this movie opens with a title scroll that I didn't know, but I don't mind sharing.
I think a lot of people didn't know.
Yeah, and I liked the surprise in the film. I guess liked is not the right word, but I'll say it on the podcast just to get you guys into what this movie's about. In 1937, a bill to ban lynchings was brought to the Senate. So lynchings is literally murder. A bill to ban, so you think murder is already banned, like you think that's inherent, but I guess there were legal lynchings. I don't know. A bill to ban lynchings of African Americans was brought to the Senate. I know. I doesn't make it. I'm just trying to make sense out of this fucking thing.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but yeah, go for it.
And I bet you can guess the United States Senate in 1937 did not pass this bill. So lynchings were not banned in 1937. Billie Holiday records Strange Fruit in 1939. Our movie primarily takes place in the late 40s and 50s. So the FBI is after her, and they keep saying it's because of her drug use. They want to get to the top, the dealers. But she's on a United States tour at one point, and they're asking who's like, they don't care about her supplier. They just want her to stop singing Strange Fruit, and they want to basically shut out African American voices, especially hers, which at this point was probably the loudest that people had heard. So that's what the movie's about.
Especially since some people kept requesting the song. Everyone wanted her to sing it.
Yeah, and I think they did a really good job in this movie of showing the audiences were primarily white, because who was affording tickets throughout the country was white, middle class, upper middle class people. And they wanted to hear her sing Strange Fruit. White people wanted to hear her sing Strange Fruit. J. Edgar Hoover was a very, 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 very much a racist. This is like the third film where we were reminded that he's a racist.
I feel like this one pulled less punches than any of the other ones we saw. Like there were a couple that like danced, like so one of them danced around it. The other one was like, okay, yeah, this happened. And this one just went for it. Like that scene is like there have been so many films this year that feature old white men sitting in smoky rooms making bonehead decisions, but this one just took it a step further. Like those guys were fucking horrible, and
those guys were fucking horrible.
Yeah, they highlight it, and it's there. It's for everyone to see.
The last thing about the plot that I'll say is, and this is a true story that I didn't know, is that a federal agent named Jimmy Fletcher, who was black, actually infiltrates Billie Holiday's personal circle. They ended up having an affair, but he does give her up, and it does lead to a raid, is their first relationship. And it's not until after she's arrested because of Jimmy Fletcher, her lover and black FBI agent, that he realizes that he was duped by the FBI. He was used. They didn't care about him as an agent. They just knew that he was the only one that could infiltrate her. And so he regains that affair later And is he still in the FBI? Is he her lover in that relationship? That's an interesting angle too. But really, this is all about Billie Holiday going through what she was going through, trying to be this advocate, and the FBI following her for bullshit reasons. So who wants to go away with some initial takeaways of the film? Initial takeaways, besides how fucking powerful a lot of it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Dave, keep going with what you were saying about do you feel like that was the spirit of the entire film as well? Just the going for it attitude and the way the script was written?
I feel like this one did not sugarcoat any of the racist shit that was going on at the time at all. Like, they were right up front. It's right there in your face, but it fits in with the story that they're trying to tell, in that, yeah, this is what happened. We're not going to Hollywood it. We're not going to do anything. Yeah. Like, this is just what happened.
I thought that was true for the misogyny as well. How casually they beat her up, the men in her life, except for Jimmy Fletcher's character, took advantage of her, hurt her emotionally, physically, and how I thought it was very on point that they chose those two. One of the songs when she was in one of the middle shows where she opens the show with, "People keep telling me, why aren't you doing more for our race? Why aren't you being nice?" And I tell them this, and they sing that song. If my daddy beats me, ain't no business but mine. If my husband beats me, ain't no business but mine. Like, they were also being shameless about that as well. So
yeah,
say what you want about the tone that Lee Daniels and style tends to bring to his stuff. You may or may not appreciate that very much, but this is pretty raw and honest. And I think the performances, I'd be very curious to talk to Lee Daniels in the script, like the screenplay writer, Susan Laurie Parks. Did the performances ground what you were trying to do directorially, or did you interview everyone thinking about how you wanted to make this? Because sometimes they inform each other, because she was just so real that it was like almost distracting sometimes. You felt like you were watching like a documentary every now and then. It was just so real.
I read some of the interviews with her, and she was like, everything I normally do as a singer to protect my voice, I did the opposite. Yeah. So she was smoking, she was drinking, she was everything to, like, it was like the Joe Cocker vocal warm up that she was basically doing. And oh my God, it sounded like, I had to look up. I was like, is she singing this? And then I found out she was.
I did too. Yeah.
What the, like, this, it's, I mean, for me, like, there was those half cut edits they were doing, like the half crossfade edits where there were like three things crossfade and everything. I didn't like that about the film, and I didn't like some of the stuff where it jumped around. Cool. But like, her performance anchors everything, and it's such a fucking phenomenal performance. I feel like that will get her over the line. Like,
I think she's gonna win.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, as I wrote, I think one of the post descriptions, like, she can't step outside her front door without getting a fucking nomination for this performance. So
she should do. I'm not sure if I still agree with everything we just said. Sometimes I did feel like the rooms of white men were a little mustache twirly. I think sometimes I know that, again, the sentiment behind that, I appreciate it as an audience member. Sometimes I think it's cringier and more disgusting when they say things not as obvious as, "We got to get this bitch," but they would say something that sounds professional that is super racist. Like this filibuster debate we're having now. Like, we know what the fuck they're saying, and it's even cringier to me than if they would come right out and say, "We hate black people. That's why we don't want to give this up."
I'm pretty sure that shit came out. Like, but I mean, you want to look at, like, we've done 3 of these films that showed this room full of white guys making these decisions, and it's like, if an entire subset of the human race sees white people in this way and develops their art and presents white people in this way, maybe you need to have a look at yourselves. Like, because that is like it in the eye of the beholder, which is coming back, like the eye that's coming back on us. That's how we're seen.
Yeah.
Certainly, people in power, especially in this case.
Yeah.
And this movie may, this is the worst. This is like the most unfortunate thing, is that because Judas and the Black Messiah came out a little bit sooner than this, and just this year, this is such a well-timed film. But for some reason, this is like late to market in a way because it's getting this burst thanks to her. And then she won the Golden Globe. It's a little bit of a surprise, not to anybody who's seen this film, I imagine. But I kind of get what you're saying, John, about the mustache twirliness. Dave, you're not wrong. I think it's more so in the way that they condense the conversations into, if there's 5 lines and all of them are on the nose like that. But at the same time, you got to keep this film moving because my only complaint with this film is that it was a little too long. And there was a section where she finally sings Strange Fruit after not singing it because she's not allowed to. And then there's a 20-minute montage of her going on tour and getting arrested in Italy and all this stuff. And then she comes back to the hospital at the end and it's like, okay, we just turned into a biopic. It's no longer about that. Now we're just trying to make sure we don't miss anything. You know what I mean? And trying to fill it all up. Otherwise, with that, take those 20 minutes out. And I thought this was really, really powerful and maybe the most visceral experience that I've had.
I'll definitely give you that. Yeah, I'll definitely give you that one.
I thought I tried to watch some of that special that Oprah did with some of the cast and Lee Daniels and Susan Lloyd Parks. Apparently she likes to be referred to as SLP, the screenplay writer. And they had an exchange where they said, this was about how do you get the audience to forgive Jimmy Fletcher in the second half of the film when he kind of sneaks back into her, when he comes back into her life, like she lets him, it's a part of it. How do you get on board with her and kind of forgive him and let him back in the world? And same deal with Judas and the Black Messiah. I feel like both of these films are kind of touching on this thing that SLP remarked. She basically said, it was important to try to make sure that was clear because I think part of this film's the message is everyone forgiving each other as we move past these terrible things that we've all laid witness to, been a part of, whatever it is, not just the African-American community within their own community, but everybody saying, okay, that did happen. Whether or not we're ashamed, we forgive each other and let's fix it now. Let's forgive each other and let's move forward. And I thought that really resonated with me. I wasn't in my head about this, but of course I could not think about the parallels to Judas and the Black Messiah, the infiltration, the people in power using, Black people to infiltrate powerful Black people, like to exploit them and take advantage of them. Some of my favorite little side scenes, if you will, that were necessary, but I don't know if anybody else would remember them, are in the there is a basement level in the FBI where the Black agents work, and just a few exchanges that happen there, and just some of the few lines they kind of throw at each other, building up comedically, and then kind of one of the last times they're there, is like, you really think they got us sitting in the basement snitching on Black folks? Like that's like the last line that his close partner says to him, and I just thought it was very potent. I don't know. That's one theme I couldn't stop thinking about because I think she felt attacked from all angles.
I'll tell you what was so heartbreaking. The scene that was heartbreaking for me, and I feel like it was heartbreaking for everyone involved, is the elevator scene. Where
Jesus Christ,
where he has to stop her getting in the elevator. He's like, I'm sorry, I can't let you in this elevator. You have to take the service elevator. And like the guy who played that was as good as her. You could see that he just hated himself. Hated himself for like what he had to do.
And I was so glad that they cut back to him after she, it's her movie. So like we follow her outside, but then it cuts back to him for just close up of him. Like, I don't think there were any like tears rolling down cheeks, but you could tell, I was glad Lee Daniels wanted to give us a moment with him where we were all like, we're the elevator guy.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck.
He didn't want to do that, but he also didn't want to lose his damn job.
The three of us are way worse than the elevator guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like, oh God. There's also just big picture. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but like, of course I could not separate. I was watching another film, very desperate to understand a point of view that I don't, share, unfortunately. And this year and everything, it's just another knockout film teaching me something about the African-American experience. It doesn't matter if she's a celebrity, I still had so much to learn. And I just feel like there's, also I just feel like we're so lucky. They were not making movies like this even when we were growing up in the 80s and 90s.
I mean, slightly jumbled aside, there's still a really compelling story in this. And her performance, it's worth watching for that alone. I will say it's
like a My Left Foot.
There was, oh my God, there was, I should just gush you right for there. There was that one, crazy. There was one section as well where I don't even know if it was a visual effect or if they actually built the damn thing. But like when she walks out in the rain and walks through Times Square in like the 30s or 40s. And I literally turned to my wife and I'm like, how the fuck did they do that? because like
Yeah.
it's raining. The sidewalk is like you can see raindrops. Like rain is the bane of existence in visual effects. So like I can't find anything on the internet about how they did it. So if anybody knows, please reach out to me, because
It did look like it was painted a little bit, right? It looked a little CGI. That actually distracted me a moment because I wasn't quite sure like why they chose to why didn't they just use a rain machine? It was such a short little scene. I don't know why they didn't just have her walk down the street with a rolling dolly and actually throw some rain on it. But I know what you mean.
I mean, if that was a visual effect, that's why. Because if you put rain, if you put rain in front of that plate, you are toast, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I do agree with you though with performance wise. I think 20 years from now, other than the historic relevance of the story of Billie Holiday, which has never really been redeemed before until this book and then this movie were made. I remember growing up and my parents loved her. My sister's obsessed with her. So I feel like I knew enough about Billie Holiday, but there was always kind of a mystery over what actually happened with her relationship with the FBI. Because of course you heard you learned that she was a drug addict, like a lot of the great early jazz musicians. And she was gone after, and it was always kind of gray. So outside of that, I do think this is going to be one of those movies that, for better or for worse, I think people are going to watch for her performance 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Outside of the historical thing, you might watch this in like a class or something, but I also think most people are just going to say what she did with this role is.
I mean, if that sneaks
nuts.
it across the line to get people to watch it, so much the better, because they'll also walk away a little bit educated.
It's like for me, that's more like La Vie en Rose, where I'd never heard of Marion Cotillard. Right. I remember that Oscar as like There Will Be Blood versus the Kelly brothers, No Country for Old Men, and then she wins the Oscar over like Julie Christie and these like classic it's like not Broadway, Hollywood actresses. And then I went and was like, well, what is this performance? And then it was towering. There was a lot of drug use. She aged really well and that kind of stuff. So if that was in America and under these circumstances are so absurd and so wild,
it's real. Also just it's not just the. All right, I was thinking about Viola Davis a lot. We are going to do an episode in the future where we kind of talk about our list and stuff. But of course, I was thinking about Viola and Frances McDormand and like, okay, the three knockout performances. But I think we did a good job tackling with Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. The Viola Davis, because it's a play, she's not handed an arc like this. She has a few powerful scenes. So like character-wise, that woman knows how to act her ass off. So she came in with a full character. Yeah. Frances McDormand, I think we did a good job talking about how quiet her performance was. She listened most of the time. It wasn't a dialogue-driven performance. This Andra Day performance on the page and what she did with it has just one of those arcs that is undeniable. It's just like that was the greatest performance of the year. I just think it's undeniable.
Also,
I mean, that's like when we get to the picks, that's going to probably be mine.
I think mine too. Well, I think sometimes, we make this a drinking game so that we're not stuffy, like, the wannabe critics. We are trying to be the antithesis of that. And then, it's sort of a tough line for us to drive, but we do our best. For this, I'm actually happy that we do this because the critics can go fuck themselves for a lot of this. Like they keep talking about, like, as I think the way Dave described it was perfect. It's like, what did you say? It was like a little plotty. I forget what your exact word is. It a little disjointed, a little come up. Maybe it is. But go fuck yourself. This is a powerful film. Yeah, you know what I mean. And I think that's where I land because there were a bunch of times I read a bunch of critics that were saying, well, there's too many men, so there's like too much emphasis on all the men in her life. She's at the center of this. I mean, like she is definitely the anchor of this. And and if you really sit back and don't take notes, which I struggled with, but I did, and you're like, who is she even fighting with now? You're like, wait a second, is this her boyfriend, her husband, or the FBI agent who's going to be her boyfriend? And you're like, who is she who's the next person that she's going to get a fight? Is this her drug dealer? And it's like that all, by the time she gets to this montage in the middle of the film, which is the climax of the film for me, which is way earlier than most films, although the end sequence at the hospital, she dies at 44, and yes, they do get there. When she's laughing in the ex-FBI interview, it's so worth it. Watch the whole
yelling, shit on me.
And she laughs for 5 minutes. It is so
it
good.
Is worth,
and the whole time you think that they're going to be planting heroin on her, and she's just like, go fuck it, do whatever.
Go fuck yourself. Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
The real climax is when she finally sings the song, and leading up to that is one of the more artistic. Yeah, heroin has been used in film in many different ways. Paul Thomas Anderson did a pretty good job with it. But it's like, it's weird because you don't want to glorify it, but you also don't want to make it seem too down to it's a hard subject matter to bridge, especially given the psychocentric like nature of it. I don't know much about the drugs, so I shouldn't be talking too much about it. But anyway, sequences like this happen where they're in a conversation and then they pass out and then they enter this dreamlike stage where now Jimmy, this FBI agent, is talking to a girl. It's a child who's in a whorehouse. So first of all, kudos to the parents for letting the daughter do that role. For the young, but it's Andra Day's voice, but the young girl's acting it out, and you're in this whorehouse from where her mom, Billie Holiday's mom, is apparently in a whorehouse, and the sequence is so bizarre. So when Jimmy's crying at the end, it's like you almost went on this experience with her, and then she sees a lynching. And I don't know if it's in realism anymore or not, which is good. I don't know. Am I still in a trip? Like, it's really strange. And then all of a sudden she's on stage singing this song. And that 15-minute sequence is a little confusing, but not when you're watching. When you're watching it makes total sense. And by the time she sings that song that you've been waiting an hour and a half for, it is so, so, so powerful that any critic who said like, oh, well, I think this, here, or that, go fuck yourself. Does it feel a little long? Maybe, but it's so worth it for that. Like, it is so worth it.
I couldn't agree more, dude. I
Jeff
think
gets the first gush
Yay!
of the night.
I get the gush. Nice.
I think the what you're describing too, I could not stop thinking about in a good way. Every time it came up, heroin use. You know, this is we all grew up with Reagan's war on drugs. Like we heard Nancy talking. This was not, they used that term back then, but it was not what it is now.
Be at war with
so
something.
I thought they caught there was a little bit more of a casual usage. Like I don't think it was just in her crew, you know, that seemed to understand that, Billie does this, we do this. I feel like they did a good job of making it a little bit more approachable so that I felt like it was believable when that FBI agent, Jimmy Fletcher, decides to do it with them. I didn't feel like it was over the moon kind of stakes where he fell in love with her so hard he had to do it. It was like, I'm totally in this world. This seems like something that wouldn't be a huge deal. Whereas nowadays, unless he was truly deep undercover, just with all the propaganda we've had on the war on drugs, it would be super unbelievable for the agent to just casually do that. And I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So I felt like that sequence did something that the rest of the heroin usage did not do. The rest of it kind of did what I was talking about. So when it arrived at that sequence, I was shook by what they chose to do with that surreal kind of dream flashback and her kind of telling them about her life. Especially that, again, knowing that in real time, they're just sitting there in chairs, doped out of their mind, laying down, kind of half passed out. And she was just telling them about her childhood.
Right.
I really thought there was a lot of really good usage of that kind of, I love when people can pull off surreal theatricality, some almost fantasy sequences, dream sequences. And I feel like this might be the reason why some people are so frustrated by the structure of this script, is that I think they wanted that to make a statement on how they could connect periods of her life. And I think for some people that did not work for them. And I don't know, I think I agree with you, Jeff. Like I was noticing them, like the person thinking about structure in my head was noticing when I thought the structure was a little off, but the emotional side of me, my heart was in it.
Yeah.
So who gives a shit? You know, and whenever that happens in movies, I try to keep telling myself like, fuck it. Also, we have to call out something, I think, just to be at least open-minded. We're talking about a lot of movies that are being made by filmmakers who have a point of view on life and experience that we don't have. Shouldn't we also make room for new opinions on how to tell stories with cinema? Is that going to mean different style and different approach to structure? I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope they keep challenging me, right?
That's the point, right?
Yeah. So that is the overwhelming feeling I've had for all four of these movies we've had the opportunity to watch in this sequence. I would
rather rewatch Friday Night Lights, which has some of the dumbest side storylines of all time, including serial killer Landry, which is just a dumb storyline for Friday Night Lights.
Is that for Friday Night Lights or for Jeff?
for me, probably. But at the same time, because of the emotional punch, I would rather watch that series again than a so-called great film, the great experience that critics love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would sit through Serial Killer Landry to get to that final montage again. Sorry, not to deviate from this. I should say two things. Number one, Billie Holiday was recently in pop culture because Audra McDonald, legend, 6 Tony Awards, did a stage show called Lady Day at the I just forgot it. I knew I wasn't going to need to write it down.
Yeah.
At the Emerald Ball. They made an HBO movie about it. So there's a made-for-TV movie about it. Now, she is a classically trained singer, and she does a really good job with her voice, but it was interesting. This is probably more in realism of how Billie Holiday would have sounded this film, whereas Audra McDonald could sing that 8 days a week pretty healthily, not like she just poked a pack of menthols. And then also the last time that 2 Black women were nominated for leading actress this year, it's Viola Davis and Andra Day. The last time was Cecily Tyson in Sounder and Diana Ross, who played Billie Holiday in Lady Sings the Blues.
Yeah.
Which, you know what? As excited as I'm not taking anything away from what we just said, but that's fucked up. That it took another life-changing performance from a great unknown, first-time actor in an iconic role for us to be like, oh yeah. Like not us. I don't blame us. It's whoever chose to produce these things, to take chances on this. I never blame audience members. I think anyone is always, if you're a movie lover, you're game for a good movie. It doesn't fucking matter. But you need to have the movie put in front of you. So for them to take chances on these stories,
producers need to stop second guessing what we want.
Yeah, if it's good, it's good, motherfucker. Especially nowadays with the streaming and stuff. We're all sitting in front of TVs every night anyway. We're only listening to what our friends tell us. You got to check this out. I don't care who produced it, what color their skin is, what it's about. If it's good, I'm watching it. I think everybody.
Kevin Costner nailed it. If you build it, they will come.
Compose yourself, you asshole. We're talking about and if Netflix wants to have like a Black filmmaker section, you better fucking fill it up. All right, because they did that like in the wake of all the stuff going on in 2020, and they're like, "This is the Black filmmaker section," and they had a pretty good list. But keep it coming, Netflix. All right, having one little subcategory is not enough.
I mean,
and this film is on Hulu, but
I mean, now that we've got because of course there was the diversity change this year for the Oscars as well.
Right.
I mean, 2020, the rule change, I don't know, was that responsible for what we're getting now, or was it just that they made some fucking phenomenal films? And it's sad that we might not ever know.
Right. Well, it's 2 years behind because most of these films were like cast, got their funding in 2019 for the 2020 year. So by the time the 2020 Oscars were coming around, so it's 2 years behind. But no, I think streaming's right. Make it and put it and see what happens.
Yeah, I want to touch on, we started with the anti-lynching law, and as the movie does, and we probably should finish with the anti-lynching law as the movie does, because it brings up a fucking horrifying fact in the end credits, in that in 2020 they tried to pass this thing again, and it still hasn't passed. Now, that's still current, right? Because of basically one person.
I mean, would you say basically one person did it got brought up again?
No,
saying Mitch McConnell.
From the research I did, Rand Paul's holding it up.
Yeah.
So because he tried to reword it.
Yeah.
It's the filibuster. Yeah. I mean, there's so much racism. The first 1934 lynching bill was held up because of Southern senators filibustering.
It's fucking 2020. How do you get to a point where this is still a questionable law, or this is still a negotiable law? Fuck off.
You gotta pass the Voting Rights Act, and then this has to get up there. And if people want to vote no on it, you gotta stand by your record.
And you think I'm angry now? Why do we get to music?
Voting no on it.
But again, you know what? This is why we're doing this podcast, right? I really do believe that art can change culture, and I think the more people that see movies like this, and when institutions like the Academy, whether or not you respect the Academy Awards, that's a big PR thing. So when she wins, and I think she's going to win, I think hopefully more people will be like, oh, I've got Hulu, and maybe they'll check it out, and then maybe they'll feel a little bit differently.
I avoid politics like crazy. I buzz other people for mentioning politics. So for me to actually bring that up,
who do you mean by that?
Give you an idea how fucking disgusted I was to read that and then research it and find out that it's still true.
And Dave just did a citizenship. He just did a citizenship test too, so he knows all about the stuff better than
you're totally right, dude.
I got a ways to go. You guys don't even know your own fucking procedures. Come on.
You're totally right.
You're right. Dave, we have freedom in this country. Freedom to be idiots. All right, let's do it, people. That is the United States versus Billie Holiday.
Next
There is
week
some
on the pod,
humor in there,
Idiocracy.
by the way.
Yeah.
There is some humor in this film too. There's a dog funeral that's really funny, and so there's some good stuff. my babies.
Also, I just want to quickly bring attention to what was his name?
Was it her friend?
Leslie,
the guy who's
Leslie Jordan, who played
Leslie
the guy
Jordan,
who starts interviewing her. He's also a recurring character on American Horror Story, but he was perfectly unlikable in that he did the same thing that they did in several of the other films, where he just started off perfectly innocently and just like dropped this line, and you're like, did he just say that? And it's a line that it would have been perfectly acceptable to a white person back then, and it's like, no. And he has this little journey where he almost gets a little bit educated, but he never quite gets there because like they kind of abandon that like 2/3 of the way through. But he played a really unlikable character really well for me.
I'm sorry. Who are you talking about? I'm trying to remember who you're talking about.
The guy who's exactly, and this is my problem. This is a little bit of a knock too, is that he's an interviewer and then he comes up every now and then throughout the film, but it's a little random. I think they could have used this character a little better.
Yeah,
but he's
interviewing. I would have liked for them to have completed
that
journey and have him like maybe get to a moment of catharsis or something, or at least redeem him in some way, because he started off irritating and then just went to, oh yeah, no, you're not nice at all, and I'm
gonna anger people.
There was a lot of subtext in there, and they just never finished that.
I might anger people by making this connection, but in Titanic, you always know the whole movie is.
You're totally right.
You always know the entire story that you're watching is being told, and you're just watching the visualization of the story being told by the old lady to the guys. In this movie, they start that and then they leave it and then they come back to it for pacing purposes when it's convenient. I feel like they could have done a better job with that. But I like that he did a good job. I
already buzzed you, so I won't buzz you for that one, but you still have to drink.
I just turned we're ending the segment. I didn't have to be negative at the end of the segment. And there you go. Anyway, people, that's the United States versus Billie Holiday, streamable right now with your subscription service on Hulu. We are going to take a quick break to just make sure we have a nice empty bladder for music. Written and directed, or co-written and directed by Sia, with music by Sia. We'll talk about it in a second. Music, people. See you soon. And we're back.
We're back, baby.
All right, we're back for Dave's favorite part of our podcast. This is the redemption film. Get that
bourbon ready, Dave.
This movie has been nominated for some Razzies, and it was nominated for some Golden Globes. Who would have thought? So this is music, written and directed by Sia.
All right.
Story is
the story is ready.
Yeah. For those of you listening to the podcast, Dave has just grabbed 2 giant beers and the handle of whiskey.
All right. Well, again, I'm assuming that people listening to this segment here have not seen the film, but it's about ZU, who is played by Kate Hudson, is newly sober when she receives news that she is to become the sole guardian of her half-sister named Music. Now, that's really misleading because we saw the movie from Music's point of view, so we know why Zoo got that phone call. It makes it seem like she got the phone call out of the blue. So Music, who is a autistic teenage girl, played by Maddie Ziegler of Dance Moms fame, her grandma, who is her legal guardian, dies suddenly. And so her older sister, Kate Hudson, named Zoo, who is newly sober, has to become the sole guardian of her. So Maddie Ziegler's character, Music, that could be confusing because there are a lot of music videos in this, and the movie is called Music, but the character's name is Music. She is a young girl on the autism spectrum. The film explores 2 of Sia's favorite themes, finding your voice and creative family, written by Sia and Dallas Clayton and somebody else, and it was directed by Sia. It stars Kate Hudson, Maddie Ziegler, Leslie Odom Jr., who's hoping that people forget about the fact that he was in this movie, even though he made some cool music videos. Speaking truth. Here's how I'm gonna set. Oh fuck! I went with the Irish coffee cream. This is a heavy beer to be drinking during this.
Oh no.
Okay. Here's what I'm gonna say in my preface here.
Jeff has made poor life
it's
choices.
about a girl. It's about a girl who is on the autism spectrum. She is what I would.
An extreme.
She's
case
low
of
functioning.
autism.
Is what they would say.
Yeah, low function. Exactly.
Very extreme case. So Maddie, let's talk about Maddie Ziegler for a second. Maddie Ziegler, when she got offered this role, she was 16 years old. And she filmed this role when she was 17. So she's gotten a lot of shit online because she's playing an autistic character and she's not autistic in real life. Now, what I would say to that is it's hard to shit on a teenager the same way. Like if you can't even buy a gun in Georgia, then maybe you shouldn't be shat on publicly for your work in a film. Also, I imagine that she had an acting coach who is probably trying very hard to not be named in this. I'm going to go ahead and say that person wants to not be named.
Okay, first of all, in defense of Maddie, sure, she made a choice. I read an article actually about this because I researched the hell out of this. And let's face it, the fact that she was playing an autistic person, not an autistic person, was probably the least controversial thing about this damn film. Because when she went to Sia and broke down crying, apparently saying she was afraid people were going to think she was making fun of autistic people, and Sia assured her she wouldn't let that happen. And now I don't know how much truth was in that article because it was very slanted towards making their point that this was bad.
Yeah,
but it's like if your actor approaches you and goes, "I'm not sure about this," and you go, "No, it's not on the actor anymore; it's on the director."
So the controversy, as Dave started to unravel here, and I'll give you the floor fully in a second, is, well, first things first. So Maddie Ziegler, you probably don't know who she is, but she's in the Chandelier music video. If you've been on YouTube, she's been in a lot of Sia's videos. Her videos have been seen 5 billion times. She was in a video with Shia LaBeouf that has been seen 1 billion times. That was also a Sia song that was also really strange. She's on Dance Moms. Yes. She used to win every single week. She's an amazing, amazing dancer. Her and her sister used to tour the world dancing. Like she's literally made a career dancing. Yes, TV helped, but she is like a proper dancer. Sia, apparently, again, I don't think Sia originally went into this trying to be too risky. I think she thought she'd be able to pull this off and make a My Left Foot or make a Gilbert Grape or one of these other ones where you have a so-called able-bodied person pulling this off. But the controversy really erupted when a lot of people said, I think it's insensitive that you cast this at that time 17-year-old girl to be playing somebody that is high functioning autistic, and I don't think they understood the concept, which is Sia wanted to be able to go back and forth between this dance dream world of the autistic character and our reality where we think, so-called people in the autism spectrum, we don't know how they can monetize their life. Like what can come with that person being in our version of reality and society. And so Sia wants to go back and forth. So rather than just casting Maddie as the fucking dance double, she decided that she was going all in. And she basically said, fuck you to all the haters on Twitter. And she started attacking people on Twitter. And that's where the controversy really came down to it.
She has since apologized for that. Now the controversy is ongoing because she apologized for that, saying, and also one of the things that they took exception to was the restraint scenes, which are not appropriate for controlling someone who's having an episode or an outburst. And they're not technically what you're supposed to do to an autistic person when they're experiencing that. And she apologized for that, said she didn't understand, and that the film would come with a warning at the beginning, and then in later releases she'd remove those scenes entirely. Neither of those things happened.
Sure.
And it just got dumped onto streaming services in all its fun glory. Now, I don't know if that was a Sia decision or if it was the producers just going, fuck it, let's just dump the thing. And but either way, all the stuff she said she was going to do to fix that she apologized for, none of that happened. And that's where the current controversy is really kind of coming out of the woodwork. I mean, all that would really count if this was a good film at all.
You really didn't like it? You hated the movie outside of that? This has nothing to do with why you disliked it?
This is not a movie. This is 4 or 5
It's an experimental film.
This is 4 or 5 scene studies and 8 music videos.
Yeah. I guess I feel like I I wouldn't say it's my thing. I'm not really into like that kind of pop music and stuff, but in terms of appreciation, I would hate for someone as creative as Sia to be told you can't do this again because you crossed a line with casting her. Um, Again, I don't think it's for everyone, and I do think it's an experimental film. I don't think this should have been marketed as anything other than this is an art film. It's a music video piece. Kate Hudson is really good in it. I think she does a really good job, and Leslie Odom Jr. Is doing a good job. He didn't explode off the screen for me the way he did in One Night in Miami, and the girl didn't make me uncomfortable the entire time, only because I asked myself very early on as an audience member, Sia clearly made the decision, do I want to have somebody who's actually low functioning autistic in life are we going to build our music sequences around someone that has those particular faculties? Or do I want someone who can transition into this world and try to show people who are low functioning autistic that in their minds and in their dreams, like, yeah, you can be whatever you want to be. And maybe there's a way for the world to see you as you see yourself. And I felt like she made that decision early on. So I was trying to be on board. I am not trying to sound judgmental to a 17-year-old, because she really, I forgave her from the get-go, but I really do think it comes down to she might have just been too young to pull this off. There have been performances where we're a little uncomfortable talking about it, but then you sit down and you watch I Am Sam, My Left Foot, Gilbert Grape, and you're like, oh, they're so fucking good at it that I really don't care, because it's, it's necessary
no one's coming
for them to tell that story.
No one's coming at Dustin Hoffman.
Right.
Exactly. Now, I was trying to look up, is the autistic community as upset as mothers and fathers and representatives of the autistic community?
Yeah.
And not super surprised. It does look like it's mostly people who are running the organizations, who are parents, friends, family members of people who are dealing with this. So I would love to sit down and talk one-on-one, like when with somebody who has this condition, and to talk with them about, like, what is this? How does this make you feel? Do you feel like, is that what you, in your dreams, are you, or can you be more than you? Do you feel like you could fit in better in your fantasies? And is that what Sia was trying to capture? And does it offend you? Because that's really the question. I think sometimes we tend to get on these, like, I remember when Brokeback Mountain came out, everybody was very upset about it. Jeff and I went to a school majoring in music theater. We had a lot of friends in the gay community who were kind of half and half. I feel like some of them were really upset. And the whole time I was thinking, like, I don't know if anybody would go see this film if it didn't have those names. That's not me saying that. That's just an unfortunate truth. And also, they're so fucking good in it. Do you really give a shit? Like, the story came across. So the reason I'm saying that is because at the end of this movie, it did get me thinking about the things Sia wanted me to think about. Again, it might not be the movie for me. I might not love Sia's music, but if I was supposed to think about what it might feel like to be going through life with that, and to wonder what it would feel like to escape from that through music and music fantasy, I think she did a pretty good job of that. It just might not be the movie for me. Maybe not be the movie for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I absolutely disagree.
Oh, I'm somewhere in the middle. I think the story does. Obviously, I'm going to let you talk about that, Dave, but I think the story does get in the way of the fantasy element, because there's too much story.
I do agree.
And
there's
too much acting, and maybe they should have just gone with those weird Beatles movies. Also, Sia didn't want to write the music for this, and then she was paid an extra $10 million if she would do the music herself.
Yeah. So those music numbers didn't exist in the original film.
I was actually going to ask you, Dave, because you film music videos, but you have a lot of takes. So I'll give you the floor. But I was like, I've seen Sia's music videos because I've seen some of the Dance Moms, and I knew that Maddie Ziegler was in this, and she's a People's Choice Award winner for some of her music videos. Sia films these music videos like films. They're very strange. They're not what you would think of for pop music. None of these music videos in this movie, to me, were on the level of her normal music videos, because it almost seems like she had too many to do.
Which is really funny, because the DP of the film filmed most of her music videos.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I know, but maybe it's just me and my bias with the film and the story, and being like, why is Kate Hudson and Leslie Odom singing
they literally
song right
used the one box stage and just redecorated it the whole time. So
yeah, and like, whatever, some of the chandelier set was just like a shitty apartment building, but like, it seemed to have a life of its own. I don't think any of these music videos had that pinch. You know, like what do you think about the music videos?
I mean,
and how they filmed them?
I made the comment actually was she trying to do an Americanized version of Bollywood? And I'll buzz for that, but like that's a serious question. It's like it had musical numbers that they burst into with bright, colorful costumes, and then at the end there was a dance number where everyone who was dead came back.
Right. It wasn't even the best dancing too, which she's done a good job in the past.
This is also
having Maddie. She was a great child. She really was a great.
She's so good. She's really good. Yeah.
But and to not make her over dance, like it's not a competition. You know, the character does matter more. But there were a lot of times where I was like, I don't feel like they sucked all the juice out of that lemon. You know what I mean? Like I feel like they left like they.
Well, that was the question I wanted to ask both of you, and I think I've already said I think that I would classify this as an experimental film, not a musical. Should it have been a musical? Would that have fixed some of these problems for us if every one of those videos wasn't just a come on. If every one of these videos wasn't just if every one of these videos wasn't just a I kind of felt like they were snapshots of a moment as opposed to a musical. A song should take us from one point to the other, not just kind of a snapshot. But then of course they literally told me in the script that music sees the world through snapshots. So then I was trying to get on board with that. Like, okay, maybe she doesn't think of it in a linear conversation, a soliloquy, the way a song is. I don't know. Do you think it should have been more musicalized?
No, I mean, it was written by Sia and a children's book author. So I feel like a lot of the stuff was like very presented simply. And like they started to lose me when we started to get into musical numbers and music's not even there.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
It just went off the rail and became like something that it didn't set out to be in the first place. And I'm like, this is an absolute fucking clusterfuck.
Wait, that's actually a really good point. The whole idea of the music videos was that's how music sees the world. And also, which whether or not that's offensive or not doesn't matter. But then there's a music video with just Leslie Odom Jr. and Kate Hudson. It's like, is music watching this, or is this not even her anymore?
But that's also, like we get to a point where we're like, okay, we've got to make we need a bit of a like to up the drama a bit. So do we write some snappy dialogue? No, we just introduce that one of the characters is HIV positive in the middle of all of this, after not even alluding to it at all. And then it just felt cheap to me. The whole thing felt cheap.
He did have that one scene where he was on the phone, but I agree, even at that point, before we knew it was HIV, I was a little bit like, what? Why are we doing that? I don't know if that's necessary.
Right.
Let's get back to music.
It's kind of ultimately, he's from Ghana, so it's almost like, well, he's from Ghana. He probably just got it. You know what I mean? It's across the bridge. And also, no, I know that sounds like I'm joking about it, but I'm actually saying like we need to stop doing that.
No, I'm just buzzing you for generalizations.
Okay.
I think that takes us back in a good full circle in a responsible way to what Jeff was saying initially. It almost feels like Sia realized as they were either writing this or making this that music's point of view wasn't going to hold up. So it's like they kind of transitioned slowly, sloppily, kind of started going away from trying to maintain her point of view. They put it more on Zoo's point of view, Kate Hudson. And I think that's where it lost some of the magic.
Well, that's the funny thing. It becomes apparent this was never music story at all.
It wasn't, which again, if they had done that correctly and realized that, tried to make us see that, like, look, we know most people are autistic, so we're going to try to get you to realize sneakily that this is how you should view the autistic community. I think we would all be like, oh, that, I learned a lot, but I don't know if I learned a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it came around to this. And also, just to put an exclamation point on that, I think if she did try to go for that, whether or not she wanted to abandon the point of view or not, I do think by casting someone who actually lived with that reality, someone who actually was low functioning autistic, to raise their circumstances inside a fantasy music sequence would have heightened the emotional circumstances dramatically. Because as good as this girl is, and she is really good. I was like, okay, that girl is a good dancer. She's captivating as fuck on camera. I didn't feel like I was connected to music at all. I felt like I was watching a really good dancer. And I fucking hate that shit. I can't fucking stand watching people just dancing without any attraction or any cohesiveness to what is happening to them emotionally. So it felt like just every time they went into the music sequence, I felt like I was watching an escapist kind of thing that Sia was choosing for me. Not even music. I didn't even feel like music was escaping. I felt like Sia was escaping, which frustrated me. Sorry, Dave, what were you saying? Yeah. Give me that.
Okay, one of the interviews that I read with Sia was that they did actually cast someone who was on the spectrum to play the role. But because of the nature of the musical interludes they introduced with flashing lights and a lot of movement and everything, it was too overwhelming and they had to recast.
I did think about that. Now, again, though, creatively, if we're sitting around our department heads table and we're making this film with our storyboards and planning, that is obviously the giant decision.
Yeah.
Do we craft our musical sequences around the needs of this person? I think there is a lot to gain from doing that, considering you're trying to create that reality.
If you're trying to create their world, create a world they can fit into. But
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, this was such a mess that, like, I'm sorry, my neighbors were having a very loud argument out the window. That was more fucking interesting than what was going on the screen.
Oh, well, really? First of all, that's always more interesting than what's going on. Your neighbors having an argument.
No, dude. Okay, seriously, if you want a real benchmark, I got a call about the hour and 3 mark in this movie from Capital One trying to offer me a credit card for the 1,000th time, and I fucking answered it.
You considered it, didn't you? Yeah.
Okay, but is there a world in which the abstract? You know, fuck it. I'm not even gonna ask that question. Who cares?
No. Ask it, dude. Like, ask it, dude.
Is there a world in which this abstract concept that's apparently based on Sia's friend or somebody Sia knows? This character is based on Sia's friend. Is there a world that this you can pull this off and it's not offensive? Where it's like, well, this is how they see the world. They see it like a music video, and it's like, okay, well, that seems a little risky. But is there a world that could have been pulled off in the first place? Or is
it's very fucking risky.
I know.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to bring this up. Roger Deakins, shout out to the Deakins podcast. He talks about this a lot, and I do think I agree with him in a certain sense. He always talks. Sometimes you can tell he's getting frustrated because he talks about the style of movies nowadays, and of course, he's talking mostly from the point of view of a cinematographer. How about everybody is obsessed with like naturalism, like we're losing our style. He's such a huge fan of noir and older films. They have a lot of style on them from European auteurs and stuff. So part of me is wondering are we conditioning modern audiences to expect fucking realistic mirrors to society? In which case, now you were talking about the subjectivity of the artist who's making it. Do they have the talent to pull off a style to reflect something that they hope is still truthful, but maybe not realistic? So no offense to Sia, but I'm not shocked that she's not a genius enough filmmaker yet to maybe pull off something that could have been worth approaching. If she were to pitch that to me and she was a genius filmmaker, I think there's probably a story there that would have really been interesting. I just don't know if she had the skill set to do it yet, which is why I'm going to go back to my early point. I don't think she made a terrible movie. I'm going to disagree with that. I don't think she made a terrible movie. I don't want this community to shut her down because she's obviously she's super creative, right? She's a super creative person. I don't want Beyonce to stop making her films. I don't want Sia to stop making her films. I think they do have something experimental that is very unique. I just don't know if she was good enough to make this one yet. Oh, that's terrible to say.
It's really funny because my wife has tuned in. Teresa's tuned in, and she's like, surprisingly, I agree with John.
Oh,
yeah. I got one
really
agreement. I'm usually not. I'm never the one arguing for a film.
Wait. There's a caveat here, except it's a terrible movie. Terrible.
Dave,
you didn't like that movie? Yeah.
That's for Teresa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I must point in. She's like I agree with John, but I actually got yelled. Yeah, Hoff jumped in as well. I agree that. She did shout out midway that while I was watching this that we need to give the love of cinema its own profile on our streaming services so it doesn't fuck up our algorithm and give us anything like this ever again. So
oh wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Look, I think we've watched worse movies.
Yes,
I have watched worse movies in this segment than music. And even in just this Razzie segment, I did not dislike watching this more than Artemis Fowl. What was the other one that really pissed me off? The week after Artemis Fowl, I was angry about the one we did after that. That bothered me a lot. This was not my least favorite Razzie film. It's just not a great film. It's probably not even a good film.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a terrible film, but it's not a good film.
All right, let's bring it around to Sia's cameo.
Okay.
What the
Okay.
fuck
CS
was
cameo.
that?
Possibly insensitive. but I
Like
laughed,
you're
man. I'm
casting
sorry.
yourself as a celebrity pop star trying to buy drugs so you can sneak them across borders with your fucking private airline. What the fuck? Why would you cast yourself in your own film as such a fucked up character?
It
Why did
sounds
that-
like something
wait,
South Park.
wait.
It sounds like something South Park would do, because it's a little insensitive. Because here's how it was presented: Kate Hudson selling drugs. Sia's character says, "Well, we need all the drugs you can have." And Kate Hudson goes, "Whoa, are you having a party?" And she goes, "No, there was an earthquake in Haiti. Didn't you hear?" And so I'm thinking, like, what? They ran out of drugs? Like, they need, so she's going to donate drugs, and that's like but it's actually because in the hospitals they're performing surgeries with just Tylenol, and so they need real drugs. So it's a little insensitive, but at the same time, it really does sound like something that South Park could pull off. I thought it was kind of funny.
It also kind of sounds like something
it was weird to me.
that pop culture. It kind of sounded like something that pop culture, not social justice warrior, but everybody trying to be on their P's and Q's would say, which again was a weird paradox in this movie. I feel like Sia was trying to be like, look, this is a great thing. I'm working on the fringe, trying to do good things. I'm bringing the autism community to the forefront.
Yeah.
It just sucked that, in the scope of this film, it backfired.
This whole thing struck me as a vanity project.
Did it really? Did it really strike you as a vanity project?
Mm-hmm.
See, it didn't strike me as a vanity project because, I don't know if she has the skill set as a filmmaker to know she was being vain. I think she was doing what she does.
One of the interviews that I read was like, I directed my last video and I thought I was pretty good at it. So I thought I'd direct a film now.
All of her videos are pretty good, but yes, 5-minute videos versus 100 minutes is the difference.
Let's play this game. How often did you guys touch your remote or look at your phone to see how much time was left on the movie?
I ran out of my 48 hours.
37
twice. 37 days.
Yeah,
So
Jeff had to rent this
didn't.
twice.
I didn't, but I paused it halfway, and then I just couldn't pick up the second half of it for a couple days, so I had to.
I did feel like
I stopped at the 59-minute mark just when Leslie Odom Jr.'s clip kicked in and recorded a reaction video and then went back to the film afterwards. But it was tough hitting play on that again.
You went on Twitch? You went on Twitch and did a reaction video?
No, I recorded a reaction video of my wife watching it.
And where can we find that video, Dave?
Dude, I can play it for you right now if you like.
Let's play it. Let's have our friends find us on the socials.
Okay, you can find that on the socials. I'll post that, and it's the reaction of Therese to the first 2 minutes of this film.
Well, just because she doesn't talk,
maybe
it's not great for the podcast here. So she just puts her hand over her mouth. It's great. You got to go see it. It's great. What were you saying, John?
I liked the guy who ended up dying, the neighbor who also may have had some, I'm not sure if he actually had an issue, he was autistic or if he had some other kind of mental condition. But I really appreciated him. I liked whenever he danced with her in her sequences. I felt like his point of view was maintained. So the last thing I want to say is that she gave me some good feelings in the very last musical sequence where the children come out and dance with her and she dances with the ghosts of her grandmother and the boy, the neighbor who I was just talking about.
Definitely.
I just remember thinking by the time it was done, I remember thinking, I don't know if the cinematic form of 2 hours built to this correctly. I think I could have just watched.
Do you not know?
Damn it, he worded that too well for me to buzz.
I'll drink anyway. I had good feelings. And there is no doubt in my mind that Sia wanted us to come out of this feeling more mindful of the autistic community and people that are living with mental conditions.
Sorry, but
I just don't know if she was a good. Yeah.
The fucking subplots. I'm sorry.
It's true.
It's the side plots.
You didn't like the guy?
No, I love that guy. But
come on, that shot, Dave, that shot in the boxing ring when he goes and hugs his opponent and it cuts to the opponent's face and he's like crying on the guy's shoulder.
No, that was great.
Cool.
That was great, but what was the fucking point of it? Like he literally he got like two 15 minutes later he got beat up by his dad and died, and there was like nothing until like I want to say 25 minutes later, which was the payoff of something he was looking at like 40 minutes before, And
Which again,
all of these
you're right.
all of these subplots seem like just an excuse for a fucking music video.
And his bothered me. His bothered. I said I liked him, and I stay with that. But his lack of development kind of bothered me the most, because I thought I was going to see something happen between him and music, not necessarily like a love interest, but clearly they liked each other a lot. The flashlight scene got me. That touched me.
That was
his
good.
flashlight screen.
That was great.
So I thought I was going to see something.
That was one of the 3 gems in this film.
I agree. Yeah. I thought they were going to reveal more. So when they consistently abandoned their point of views, I was a little less interested. You were positive. Kate Hudson was good in this movie. I just don't know why it ended up being about Kate Hudson. I thought I was watching a movie called Music.
This whole thing was supposed to be about music going in and out of the reality
I mean,
world.
but again,
the reality world, they were like, we don't know. Wait, this is the only this is the really, if we're going to get like insensitive with the filmmaking, which I'm with John, maybe it's just, it just wasn't there yet. The film, whatever. The whole thing is supposed to be about this girl whose fantasy life and reality are blended in such a way. And maybe that is how Sia thinks that this character may be on the autism spectrum. Her fantasy life and her reality life are blended. And in reality, we never fucking see music. Music's in the background of the whole movie whenever it's in reality. So it's almost like we can't deal with her in reality, which seems insensitive. If there is the argument for the insensitivity, which I am also on board with, Sia didn't mean to be insensitive. Maddie didn't mean to be insensitive. So as far as hating people for this, I do think intention matters, and they didn't intend for that.
Yeah.
However, if you don't know what to do with your character,
I didn't intend to kill that hooker either, but she's dead.
The problem.
Jesus Christ. No, Jeff, I do agree. Like you're sitting there around your department head's table, you're planning this thing, and you come to that quagmire.
The autistic girl is like, well, she doesn't like the bright lights, and we need bright lights, so let's get her out of here. It's like, wait a second, hey, we're not doing this movie.
When you say, when you come to that decision and you say, fuck it, we'll just put her in the background of every scene. I think you got to realize that's quicksand.
I realize you've lost your way.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna keep letting Dave air out his thoughts while he finishes his bottle of bourbon.
Let me ask one last question. Let me ask one last question, because Jeff, I think you do appreciate that style of music a little more than I do. Do you think the music was any good? Like, was Sia's music pretty cool for this? I liked that "Humans Are Insecure" song, which is like an interlude. There were a few songs that were catchy to me. I liked her main song that Kate Hudson kept singing. Yes. So would fans of Sia appreciate the music to this enough to go watch this movie?
Yeah, I will say though, it might suffer from high bar syndrome, where the other music videos, even the Shia LaBeouf one, which is Elastic Heart, people, if you're still listening to this, please go look at it. It's Shia LaBeouf and like a 14-year-old Maddie Ziegler in a cage. They're not wearing any clothes. It's like really bizarre, and it might make you feel uncomfortable. Even that one.
Isn't he wearing what she was wearing in Chandelier?
Yeah, basically, they're both basically wearing the same thing that she wore in Chandelier. And it's very strange. Is it about assault? It's very, very strange. But at the same time, you know that there is a point of view. These videos are a little bright. They are all very clearly filmed in a production studio in LA. Yeah. You can't escape that. Your fantasy world, my fantasy world is not.
I mean, one of them looked.
And you can't watch these videos without thinking you're in a
You remember those
studio.
magic eye pictures from the 90s where you had to relax your eye and look into it and see a picture? That last one, like with the kid who just died in the suit, looked like one of those vomited.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry.
I liked that one.
Like,
I liked the last one.
It sucked. No, not the last one, but the second to last one.
So to answer John's question, will fans of Sia like this? I think if they just did music video to music video, generally speaking, they would like it, but they would probably understand that only one of them would make it onto the greatest hits album.
Cool. Well, I don't want us to be a part. I certainly don't want us to be a part of telling an artist to stop creating, especially someone like Sia
keep going, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
keep making music.
Keep doing it. And fuck the haters. I do agree with Jeff. I am definitely in that school of thought. Intention matters. I think Sia learned from this. Keep creating, and I bet you could make something that is really great one day.
If those scenes were cut, or there was a warning at the start of this video, but that was ignored.
Right.
Let's watch her. Let's see her second film. Let's see her make another one, and let's judge it.
You know what? Hollywood's such a piece of shit. They love a comeback story. Her next movie could win fucking Best Director for all you know. So it's like,
totally right.
Come on. All right, people, that's it. Next week, we are going to skip the Razzie stuff, all right, because we want to make sure we see these Oscar films. And And I don't want
And
to
we're
rent
pretty
another
much fucking done
Razzie
with the
film
Razzies
twice.
after this.
We're
yeah.
pretty much done with the Razzies.
Yeah.
Glenn Close and that's enough. So next week we are gonna.
Buzz the Razzies.
I'll drink for the Razzies because I'm winding down.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is for the Razzies.
Take that, Razzies.
So we've got some heavy hitters next week. One of them's a renter. Nope, they're both renters. We're doing it. We are doing Minari and Promising Young Woman. Minari and Promising Young Woman. They are both available via paid rentals on Amazon or otherwise. So Minari, Promising Young Woman, a lot of nominations, a lot of buzz. Please watch them before next Sunday, where I don't know, the 20-something of March, or we are going to be talking about these goddamn films.
Yep. We don't know
All
what
right.
day it is. We normally
Final words.
we normally record on a Sunday night. Now it's Tuesday. We're all messed up.
Yeah,
I
now
think
it's
it's
be
the
hungover on
29th.
Wednesday. So, friends, it's been fun. I will see you next week. Thanks for sticking around, film fans.
Peace.